Michelle.
Hey, Cyndee.
It's nice to see you again. I love our coffee breaks. I think they're so cool. The last time we were together, we were talking about curiosity with the individuals, and I'd really love to talk about it, what it doesn't mean in a team, right? Because it really can be truly a team superpower if it's activated correctly. I recently was with a group, and I was so excited because unprompted, right? I kind of broke them up. It was about 30 people, and I said, one of the corners I really want you to focus on, what can we be doing differently to learn and grow and really accelerate the impact of the team? And one of the things they came up with on their own is we need to be more curious. If we're not more curious, we're always going to be playing defense instead of offense. And I'm like, okay, great. So what can you do, right? So I pulled a page out of your bold black marker and really pushed them on. What can you do? And they came up with this really cool idea of what if once a week for 1 hour, we had a standing meeting, and it wasn't to talk about agendas and to-do lists and project plans and all the things, but it was truly a meeting that created white space for this team where we could explore and wonder and ask ourselves what if and be truly curious. I thought, what a powerful idea. Now, obviously, there's some work that needs to go into executing an idea like that to make it valuable and make a difference, but I was kind of curious if you've seen anything like that work in your world or how you've approached that to really change that muscle for teams beyond just go, 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 go to like really create some meaningful space.
So a couple of things is fail fast, right?
Love that.
You hear that a lot,
Yeah.
fail fast, and be innovative. So fail fast, be innovative in a place where, how does curiosity work around that? So, working with specifically in engineering firms is that need to fail fast is very important.
Yep.
But a lot of them have, they have to follow by the book, or whenever they're challenged in certain things, then they feel like they only can work within, these certain boundaries, I would say, rather than what you're talking about is working in the white space, which is actually outside the boundaries.
Yeah.
So I think what you're saying as far as the white space, I think would really resonate with them because they're challenged to be innovative. They're challenged to, do more with less. They're challenged to, let's see if we can get ahead of people and, fail fast, different things. But then where do they plan? You almost have to plan curiosity from a team. And that's kind of what you're saying is how do you make that as part of the flow of work where curiosity just becomes part of.
And you build that muscle.
That's right. That's right.
And the habit. Yeah, we have this thing called jam sessions that I love, right? So I think we
now, is this like strawberry jam?
No,
or like
no.
music
It's
jam?
like
What are we
jam,
talking?
music jam, right? And if you think about a bunch of jazz musicians and they just get up there and they jam, right? And they're able to jam because everybody brings their strength, their talent, their thing to the table, but they're playing off of each other and they're being curious about what the other one's laying down. It's not scripted.
Yeah.
And it's definitely this kind of white space approach to things where questions are the start of it, right? And what can we do together and how can we be curious about it and what experiments might we try? Now, the thing that I see, and I'm going to be totally candid, some teams I see like really embrace this and then they never do anything.
Yeah.
Right? And so how have you solved for, okay, let's just fast forward. The team's really built this muscle of being super curious and white space and doing all this thing. How do you move from that to doing something with it?
Yeah. So a couple of things. So one is you have to sometimes you have to constrain.
Oh, I love that.
You have to constrain because if you don't constrain, then all you have is ideation without any kind of real rubber hitting the road.
Exactly.
So how can you put some constraints around here? So, we can be very idealistic about this, that, and the other. If you had all the money in the world, if you had no, issues with resources, but at the end of the day, there are resource constraints. Yeah. There's time constraints, there's people constraints,
money.
There's talent, and different things like that. So how can you put those constraints in and still allow that curiosity within that constraint?
That's super powerful. One of my favorite people is Clay Christensen. Rest in peace. Yeah. And, one of the things he always taught was that more creativity can happen in the face of constraint than it can in a just wide open, right? So how do you go from very broad to narrow into doing something, right? And I think those constraints become a really important part of the equation to do something, to move something forward, because I do have a bias similar to yours, but in the workplace, especially anytime we're doing anything, collaborating, meeting, anything, it should be with an eye towards moving the work forward. And if we're not moving the work forward, then we have to ask ourselves, is this the best use of our time?
That's right.
But that's not at the expense of curiosity and pushing ourselves outside our comfort limit to see what else might be possible from the status quo.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is that curiosity piece. So I find that members of the team, sometimes they're quieter than other members of the team. So, how can you use a, divergent, convergent process in order to make sure that everyone has a voice, in the process? Because I do think that also lends to that curiosity. Because if someone has an idea and then you have the stronger voice that shuts it down, even if you put rules of engagement out there, we are humans, and things like that. So using that divergent process where think of all the crazy things that we could do considering these constraints, or maybe even what are the constraints that we should consider, and different things like that, and then converge those ideas together to then make more of a team type of constraints and ideation versus the biggest voice is the one that because we're gonna be biased, right?
Of course.
With those biggest voice.
Well, you're making me think about something that is super important, and I'll just lay it down here. It might be its own episode too. But, we're talking about curiosity in the sense of innovation and white space and everything. But, I think just in the day-to-day rhythm of work with a team, we have to stay curious, right? Because humans change, right? I need to, what someone once told me that we only communicate with our words 7% of the, so there's 93% that we're communicating without our words. And in this increasingly virtual and remote world and all the things, right? I think part of this curiosity in teams really becomes caring enough to notice what's going on with people. Is Michelle uncharacteristically quiet today? And maybe it's not appropriate in the team meeting to call that out, but care enough to be curious to say, "Hey, Michelle, just want to check in with you."
Well, and I got another tool that I use.
Yeah.
2 words describe yourself right now at this very moment. And you get those, all they have to do is come up with two words. Yeah. And, a lot of times I'll start it, right? Yeah. Because a lot of times, people need to see what it looks like before they do it. And so even like today, excited and nervous, right? Yeah. Excited to be doing this with you and a little nervous because, we're on camera. So those 2 words then tell you so much, and it gives you that pulse of the team. Yeah. And you do that, and then you start in with the flow of work, because then curiosity has started with, how are you doing? Rather than, I'm okay, because that's going to be your standard answer.
Well, and I think this is interesting. So I'm going to lay down something super practical, but not easy, right? And that's just being present. The reason 5-year-olds are so curious, they can be so curious, is they're not worrying about what's happening 5 minutes from now. They're right now in this moment, all in, which allows them to be super curious, right? And I see that with my grandson all the time. And sometimes it's annoying, right? But he's just like right there. And I think in the hustle and the bustle of get done, go, 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 we're not present. People have convinced themselves myth that they can multitask. Multitasking, biggest myth on the planet, right? They can't do it. And when we try to do those things, we miss the opportunities to be curious, to care, to connect with our team members. And that's when things start to kind of everyone goes to their corners, right? And we lose the power of even being a team, right? Because we're all just individually rowing our boats somewhere.
So this is all very true. So, one of the things is, what are some of the rules that you can put up for yourself, right? Yeah. For yourself, and then, even for your team.
Yep. Those norms.
Yeah. Is it putting away phones, or, laptops are closed? Some people take notes, with that, but we know hand to paper actually works.
It's a different
better.
part
it's
of your brain. Yeah.
Different part. So what are those kind of rules that you can have, honestly, first of all, for yourself to be present, and then I guess, the rest of the team, to be all in and be present at that location, because I think that is important.
Yeah. I love that. I've also seen some teams that have just, one of the norms, and this is a bit prescriptive for my style, but, one of the norms they said is, we're always going to ask 3 questions before we go to solution, right? So they're really trying to build that muscle, but the flip side of a great question is you got to be able to listen. Yeah. Right. And I know we'll get to that probably in another episode too, but listening is the complementary skill to the question, because asking a question that inflects at the end, but you really don't care about the answer, is not curiosity, right? And that can do more damage in a team environment faster than anything else, right?
So simple, not easy. Yeah. For a team to be able to show curiosity. Yeah. What are we telling people to do?
I mean, my bottom line piece of advice is start with being present, and the curiosity will follow.
Yeah. And I would think that mine is, use that convergent divergent process because at the end of the day, you want all voices to be heard. And if you really want the pulse of the team,
Yep.
ask them those two words. What do you feel?
Yeah.
And even in the world where
Yeah.
people aren't supposed to have feelings, by the way, we're humans. What do you feel right now? And that'll give you that pulse of the team so that you maintain that curiosity and meet them where they are.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's great advice.
All right.